in one of the most remote places on Earth, an outback mining town, hundreds of kilometres from the nearest capital city.
Couldn't imagine being anywhere else.
Broken Hill's emergency department
Saw there.
copes with the extraordinary.
Seen scorpion stings, snake bites, spider bites.
Its patients are those tough enough to call this harsh place home.
I've got a broken leg. I've got horses booked in to come over the next few weeks.
Each day brings the devastating lows.
This was my worst nightmare.
I still well up, and you just kind of swallow it and keep going.
And remarkable highs.
Thank you very much.
The most satisfying part for me is seeing someone get well and go home is wonderful.
Thank you.
That can only come when you live in the middle of nowhere.
Everyone thinks doctors only drive Mercedes and BMWs. They don't do so well on the roads out here, even the bitumen's crap. And that's why I drive this thing. It gets me where I need to go. What I love about old cars is if you run into any problems and you do anticipate problems with them, is you can usually fix it on the side of the road with a handful of tools and some chicken wire. And I guess that's sort of a little bit what we do when we work in the ED. We don't always have all the gear we need to be able to sort things out then and there, so we often have to cobble stuff together until we can get people more definitive treatment.
Someone else has been doing some DIY, and it hasn't ended well.
Sliding on 3. 1.
65-year-old local Doug has sustained serious injuries after he fell off his roof.
Up there fixing your leaks, were you?
No, I was trying to stop the antenna from swaying.
Oh, right, putting up a few guy wires.
Yes.
Fair enough. You don't have any pain in your chest or in your belly at the moment?
Not at the moment. No.
Not at the moment, and it's mostly sort of in your left leg and right foot and...
Left leg.
Left leg, yeah, sort of below the knee and in the knee. It was fairly obvious that Doug had a pretty badly injured leg and knee. He'd had a pretty significant fall from about 3 metres. While the knee looked and the leg looked pretty bad, we were able to sit on that for a little while because we had to make sure there weren't any injuries to his spine or neck.
I said, "What are you doing, Doug?" And he said, "Mind my own business." So I went inside and did. Next thing, crash, crash, bang, bang. And I thought, he's fallen off the roof, in his thongs, off the ladder. I've told him, his sons have told him, but he always does. He's a man. Doesn't realise he's 65. I just ran straight out and he was on his side and he said, "Don't touch me." And I said, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "Get the ambulance," which I did. You could see he was in a lot of pain, you could see that. Yes, I knew he'd done a good job, I knew that. I was relieved when that ambulance got there though, I was.
Scans clear Doug of any spinal injury. However, there are worrying signs his shattered leg could be even worse than first thought.
He's still bleeding quite a bit. The bone's all smashed up, it's all vascular. And so this trickling, it looks quite mundane, but what he's actually done here is at some point, I think one of the bony fragments, he's got all these fragments in his leg, it's essentially shattered. The tibia here, and one of those fragments has actually come out and then gone back in. I can feel it just on the surface there. And this blood that continues to ooze out is actually coming from inside the bone. A trickle of blood where his leg was fractured, which is very concerning, considering that you can lose quite a significant amount of blood when you have a fracture of that degree. The other concern is that the major vessels running around that bone have also been torn, which is essentially emergency and needs to be stopped straight away.
Another trauma patient arrives in emergency after an unusual rescue mission.
We've just had an elderly lady that's come in. She's been in a pretty terrible situation. She's fallen between her bed and her wall and been trapped there for sort of 12, 13 hours with her leg trapped underneath her. They weren't able to remove her in the conventional way when they were in the house. So the ambulance called the fire brigade, and the fire brigade actually cut the wall of her house in order to extract her safely.
Housebound Margaret lay helpless for half a day, with her leg trapped underneath her.
I think I lost balance.
You think you lost balance when you got out of bed?
Yes.
But you don't really remember?
Yes, I do remember.
You do remember falling and losing your balance?
Yes, I did not.
You felt a bit dizzy when you got up, maybe, did you?
I tried to grab things and I...
Margaret was actually trapped in a really quite interesting position. She had her right leg tucked underneath her and her left arm sort of trapped behind her. She was trapped in that position for about 12 or 13 hours, I think. She does live at home with her husband, but they live in separate rooms, and actually he didn't come round to see her until about midday today, and that's when he found her.
I couldn't make him hear, and usually my dog goes and gets him.
So the ambulance staff actually told me that Margaret's leg had turned blue by the time that they'd arrived. Instantly, what that makes me worry about is the fact that she might have lost blood supply to the leg. And this could mean that when you free it, you can release a lot of toxins and muscle proteins into the bloodstream, which can actually cause significant organ damage and serious life-threatening effects.
Let's have a look there. See what we got.
I don't know how I twisted that.
Hurts down here, does it?
Oh, very painful. I'm in a terrible lot of pain.
Blood tests will show if any dangerous chemicals have been released. But despite the urgency, getting a sample is proving difficult.
We had a real problem getting blood off Margaret today. It was actually really hard to find a vein in such a big arm. Had to get Andrew, the ED director's help in using the ultrasound machine to locate an appropriate vein.
It looks like you're off to the left a little bit. So if you just withdraw a bit, generally you sort of watch the screen, yeah.
With the blood finally taken, Dr. Lee discovers that despite her ordeal, Margaret hasn't lost her sense of humour.
How does it feel now?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
Shit out.
All right. OK. Poke out your tongue?
That's rude.
Well, I don't mind. There we go. Great, thank you. So Margaret's blood tests have come back fairly normal, actually. Margaret's prognosis really depends on her mobility. So our ability to get her out of hospital really depends on how good she is on her feet and if we think that she'll be safe enough to cope at home.
How about you getting down here and let me accept you?
Well, maybe later. Once we get you better, then we can talk about that.
Yeah, so Margaret's an interesting character, really, and you could see that despite all that had gone on with her for the last 12, 13 hours, she was still pretty happy to have a joke with me, and I think we got on pretty well.
Hi, it's Alex, the EDRMO calling from Broken Hill. Basil, I have a patient that I need to be retrieved to you. We're treating him as a presumed compound fracture because it looks like he's had a bit of a bony fragment come through the skin and go back in.
We just put up with each other in retirement, and he tells me what to do and I tell him what to do, but I don't think either of us listen to each other.
Broken Hill retiree Doug fell from his roof while fixing his TV antenna. His badly broken leg is causing Dr. Alex concern.
So essentially what we've got here, we've got the femur, the thigh bone, and then you're coming down into the knee itself. And then looking here, we're coming into the tibia, and that's essentially meant to be one piece, but as you can see, it's fragmented. And as we go through the slides across, you can see there's extensive damage. It's what we call a comminuted fracture. And with this is part of the reason why he's bleeding so much. Essentially, that's just completely shattered.
The break is so bad that Doug will need to be flown to Adelaide for specialist treatment. But right now, doctors have a bigger issue.
How's the pain at the moment? 8.5 still.
Since you've been playing around with it,
Okay.
it's like a dead leg.
Feels like a dead leg. Okay. Doug started to complain of numbness in the back of the leg, which is very worrying for a condition called compartment syndrome, which is essentially a limb-threatening or even a life-threatening event. Essentially, a compartment syndrome is where bleeding occurs around the calf muscles in a confined space, which increases the pressure. Unless that pressure is relieved by an operation, the muscles, nerves and vessels in the legs will die.
So with a compartment syndrome or any situation that compromises blood flow to part of your body, it tends to be fairly time critical. We've got sort of somewhere in the vicinity of 2 to 4 hours to restore the blood flow to prevent any irreversible damage.
Doug needs to get to Adelaide and fast, but there's a problem.
Doug's flight was still 2 hours away. We realised that he wasn't going to make it to Adelaide in time to be operated on and needed to have emergency surgery in Broken Hill in the meantime.
This is my Sigma, a Chrysler Sigma. Well, I've had this car since 1985. Means I've almost had it for 30 years. The car will turn 35 on the 8th of May. Not that I'm keeping a close count on its age or anything. The car's special to me. It's my first car. I've done lots of great trips and holidays in it. So yeah, so the car and I have history, and good history. It's got a lot of unique features. It's got a manual choke. Yeah, when I start the car in the morning, I've got to pull the choke out, pump the accelerator about 10 or 20 times, otherwise the car won't start. And one thing I do notice, I can't go anywhere in Broken Hill without people knowing me. Just coming to work today, from a distance I saw an ambulance guy wave to me. The Sigma is recognisable.
Arriving at work with his trusty Chrysler, Dr. Phil is about to begin another long night shift.
Because we're short-staffed, I had to come in a couple of hours early. Normally my shifts are 12.5 hours, but I came in 2 hours early. And that's what now, 1:30 in the morning?
One of the challenges of night duty here is limited medical staff. When I do night shift here, I'm the only doctor for the whole hospital from 10 o'clock until 8 in the morning. So you're covering all the wards, which have up to 88 patients, as well as the presentations to emergency.
Robert Vag, is it?
Yes.
G'day, I'm Phil a bit old. They call me Philip or Phil, or Dr. Phil if you like.
Okay.
Well, the only doctor here at the moment, so... Any medical problems at all?
I suppose I'm, like many people, in need of a few good doses of Viagra.
Okay.
Just had an 80-year-old gentleman arrive by flying doctors from Ivanhoe, so several hours out of town. He lives on a property and apparently was head-butted by a cow. So what apparently happened when the flying doctors arrived there, they hit a kangaroo on landing.
So unfortunately we can't get x-ray now until the morning.
Yep. What about a few drinks of water?
Yeah, look, I'm happy for you to drink, but no grog or anything. And no Viagra either.
Right.
Okay.
Broken Hill Hospital can be a strange place, with strange cases at night.
I was working night shift and it was around midnight. The police came in. They rarely bring good tidings. I said, what have we got in the bag? A body. Well, I've got 2 bags. One's the head. That was probably my strangest experience. Had not previously had that happen in town.
There was cooking chips on the stove with fat. I went to the toilet, came back, and I found out there's smoke alarms going off. And there was a big, huge flame of smoke and flames in the kitchen. I went to get the pot, chucked it out the back, and clocked the whole lot.
That's the wood behind the stove. He was very lucky.
For 28-year-old Jeffrey, a few too many drinks have resulted in a trip to emergency. He suffered burns to his arms and hands after a pot of boiling oil caught fire.
G'day, Jeff. Andrew's my name.
Here's the
Ooh, right.
It's all over.
What's he done?
He was cooking chips at 4 o'clock this morning.
In boiling oil?
On a pot on the stove, yeah.
Yep.
He went to the toilet, come back because all the smoke alarms were going.
Yep.
Seen the flames and that, picked up the pot and threw it outside.
Right.
Instead of trying to smother it.
Yeah. Okay, and so he got smothered a little bit himself.
Yes.
Bugger, all right. It wasn't when you threw it that it went all over you, it was sort of when you were trying to get it off the stove and it was bubbling up and boiling and smoking and...
It was like big, huge flames and like I was really in shock and
jeez.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
Smoke alarms were going off and I was trying to shut them up. And
Yeah. Did the fire department come or anything like that? No. So it's just arms and sort of face and head. All right. And yeah, your voice is a bit hoarser than normal? Yeah, right, okay.
Sandra and I sort of try and look after Jeffrey. I was a supervisor at a disability centre where he works, and we've known each other for over 10 years. I treat him like a son and he always calls me mum. As a mother, I'd probably want to kill him, and he knows that. Every time he's been in hospital is because of alcohol. Rode his bike when he was drunk, fell off, hit his head. One night with alcohol and mixed it with antibiotics, ended up on life support. And like a lot of the times, I tell him it's who they hang around with. They drink, you're going to drink. You can have one or two, it's when you have a whole carton and it's not good for you lot. That's what happens sometimes, the results of it. Drink coffee, drink water.
The important thing is that you haven't sort of completely burnt through the layers of skin. While it's all really red and raw and painful at the moment, it will sort itself out. We'll put some dressings on it in a sec, and that'll hopefully make you feel a bit more comfortable, as will this happy juice that Joe's giving you here. But I think maybe the safest thing or the easiest thing is just to pop him in hospital. Yeah. Nurses can look after those wounds. We can give him pain relief when he needs it. He lives by himself. He's got quite extensive burns to both of his hands and arms, and he's got an intellectual disability. That's potentially a recipe for disaster, so we decided to pop him into hospital and see what his needs would be over the next few days before we send him home.
And we might get you an air fryer. Apparently you can't burn things in it.
Yeah, apparently.
Roof fall victim Doug needs emergency surgery on his leg. Pressure from internal bleeding is threatening circulation, and if not stopped, he could lose the limb. We realised that the pulses in his foot were becoming a little bit more sluggish. We anticipated he may have had a compartment syndrome, and then he may not have made it down to Adelaide before he'd lost some permanent function in his leg and foot. So we had to do something a little more aggressive here in Broken Hill. In the case of a compartment syndrome, it's about decompressing the compartment that's under pressure. Usually what that involves is just cutting down and making a big slice in the sheath that contains that muscle belly. It's like cutting the skin of a sausage. The dangerous pressure is immediately relieved, allowing enough room for the muscle to expand. It's not a particularly complicated procedure, it's essentially an emergency procedure, so it can happen quite quickly. And yeah, while he looks quite ugly when he comes out of the theatre, it's potentially saved his foot and leg. They can give it plenty of time to heal further on down the track, knowing that the blood supply to his foot is going to be preserved.
Doug was able to be operated on successfully in Broken Hill, which allowed the Royal Flying Doctors to transfer him to Adelaide that night.
Being a DIY rooftop repairman has cost Doug dearly. After 3 operations in just 3 weeks in Adelaide, he now faces months of gruelling rehab, followed by a complete knee replacement.
The Rural Emergency Department here in Broken Hill sees its fair proportion of older patrons. The seat of my pants feeling would tell me that we would see somewhere upwards of 50% would be what I'd consider older people or people with age-related complications and medical problems.
Colin has been sick for the last 3 years. The start of Colin's illness was the collapse. That night we had these big bleeds in the brain, and then they had him sent him to Adelaide. He was there for a month, and then we came home, and I had him for 11 months. And then it just got too much for me. Hello, Cole.
This morning, Marge's husband Colin suffered chest pains at his nursing home. He was brought into emergency and has been undergoing tests.
Can't get away from it, no. You can't, no.
Good to see you.
Yeah. You've been misbehaving. You have chest pain, did you?
Oh, a bit, not bad.
Oh. You was a handsome bloke, wasn't you? You was a handsome boy.
Oh, God.
Yes. And he had such a lovely nature. And I remember his blue eyes. I sort of looked at his eyes and I thought, oh, aren't they beautiful? Yeah.
I couldn't have picked a little wife. She's a good cook.
Good cook. I won your heart, did I, through my cooking?
Banana cakes.
Banana cakes, yes, he loves those. We have 2 children. Peter's 62 and Diane's 59. Life's just going by so quick. When Colin started at the mine, I think he went straight into diamond drilling. It was horrible sometimes, be working in water up to your waist. Then he had an accident. He was off for a little while with that. That was pretty bad.
A few blokes had bad accidents. One bloke fell down a hole and then they tipped all this rocks on top of him. He didn't last long. Poor guy.
If anything went abnormal, you are not happy with having CPR or intubation or using the defibrillator.
We decided that if we do have a cardiac arrest, we don't want to be resuscitated. 87 years of age, it's a fair age, isn't it, to resuscitate, and he's had a good life. Haven't you?
No.
Oh, yes, you have, yes.
Yes, I have.
Colin returned to his nursing home the following day. He spent the next 4 weeks in and out of hospital as his health slowly deteriorated.
Look at Colin. I think we were engaged for 12 months and then I was married at 20. I still remember, like as if it was yesterday. But when you look back on the photos, I do look different. When he passed away, I think that was a blessing in disguise because he just went to sleep. He just gave just a little, sort of a bit of a twitch like that, and then he just lied there. Just like, just as if he was asleep. It was very peaceful. So we had him a lot longer than expected because he was a fighter. Colin and I lived in this house 64 years from the night we got married. Yeah. He was a gentle person and very caring. He'd want to be looking after you and doing things for you and making sure he'd open up the door for you and, all these things that that the men used to probably do in those days. But when I know that he's gone permanently, it's different. In the afternoon, I was in there, with him. And then, of course, all of a sudden, there's nothing in the afternoon.
Just down the road, Margaret is back at home after her fall and dramatic rescue. She's a little worse for wear, but still able to see the funny side.
Have you ever seen a pretzel all twisted and screwed up? That's what I look like, with my backside stuck in the air. Oh, I said, oh no. It was in the middle of the night. I thought, oh, I've got to get up. And I lost balance. This bed was bolted down. And the men, oh God, they must have had muscles and a half. Just got the bed and whoof, and ripped it up and pushed it over and dragged me out through under the window to get me out there. I haven't been outside this house for about 5 years. I get impatient with myself because I cannot go and do the things I want to do. I absolutely love Broken Hill. I like the people very, very much. And I reckon it's a terrific place to be. There's everything you want in Broken Hill. And I said to Peter, they're missing one thing here. He said, what's that? I said, quoits. Remember the old quoits we used to throw? And sure enough, we were in the Legion, I think it was, that night. And in comes this bloke with these quoits. Well, I couldn't believe it. You can go all around Australia, anywhere you like, but you'll find it all here in Broken Hill.
There's no place that I've been to that has been like Broken Hill.
I didn't expect to like it like I did.
We have 350 days of sunshine a year, and just the sense of community out here is fantastic.
It's quite social for junior doctors. We all live together, and it's got a bit of a reputation as being a bit of a party placement. Certainly living up to that so far.
And there are a lot of fun things to do out in Broken Hill, and the most fun thing I ever did was make the love of Lala. Thanks. the delectable Craig Smith, partner in crime, super duper kisser.